Live politicians will be in this episode. Viewer discretion is advised. Welcome, everybody. It's your boy, the Versace Stoner. We're here with another episode of VSW Podcast. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be a little honest. We never, ever delve into politics. This will be the one exception. We got the man himself, the only person that I ever voted for. The one and only, the politician. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Versace, for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited to be here. I know you've been asking for the politician for a while, and like a true politician, I have pulled through and I have appeared on your podcast.
You have, and I'm really grateful for it. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to do so. I do know, I'm seeing you all over the place. You're wrestling everywhere, you're really getting around doing the thing. And I have to appreciate that, that weekend grind, they call it.
Oh, absolutely. For sure. As of this moment, right now, as of recording this podcast, I am at 106 matches.
Wow. That's impressive. Now, when did you break in?
My debut was in June of 2022. It was at the Manchester Pride Festival in the park in Manchester, New Hampshire. Actually was scheduled for one match that day, but I ended up having two matches. And my second match was pretty good. It was against a longtime wrestler named TJ Jordan. So it was very, very fun.
Nice. So, that's impressive. 100, all those matches, and it's only been, 2 years, really. That's impressive in a quick time period. But, you do get, with the shows and the weekends, you can get a couple in there every week and, different promotions. And you don't just work for one promotion. I've seen you, listed in many promotions, which, again, is awesome.
Absolutely.
So, you said in 2022. Where'd you train out of?
When I first started, I started training at the Next Gen Pro Wrestling Academy. At the time, they were in Manchester, New Hampshire. They've since moved to Auburn, New Hampshire. I stayed with them for about 9 months. And then after that, the Elite Pro Wrestling Academy in Concord, New Hampshire opened up. So I moved my training over there. And over there, I train under head trainer Mike Hollow and the other trainer, owner, Scott Reed. So I'm getting two very, very good coaches from those two. And it's actually a reflection on the fact that I am staying busy all over New England and able to bring my campaign everywhere. I get good training and it shows in the squared circle.
Yeah, you're like the new age Lex Express over there. You're everywhere. It's great.
Well, I'll need a donation, Versace, in order to afford a bus there.
What? We can talk about, maybe we will get you a VSW sponsored bus. You could travel all around the country. They'll get to know me. They'll definitely get to know you. It's a win-win. We'll think about that. That's a good, that's smart campaigning right there, I have to say. But now prior to the wrestling, you had some forms of martial arts involvement, and you've done other physical aspects of, fighting combats and such, right?
That's right. Yes, that's absolutely right, Versace. So I've been doing martial arts actually for over 30 years. I started as a child doing Shaolin Kempo karate, and then I did a little bit of youth judo. Then I did Taekwondo. There are two branches of Taekwondo. There's you could say, for those in the know, you could say one is more or less a Japanese branch and the other is the Korean branch. I did the Korean branch of Taekwondo. And
yeah, my son's right now, he's enrolled in the Korean branch as well, and he's learning that.
Oh, you're in the know.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful.
And I actually come from an amateur boxing background myself. I used to, put on the gloves and mask and get in there and do some fun. Well, I went a little bit amateur, but I used to do fight nights and such. It was just fun. We used to train, and then the teams would compete, and you get a little showing. But I understand, it's a lot of training to even do one combat sport. Never mind all of them or learn them. And again,
I didn't do them all at once. I progressed far enough in each of them, and then moved on to the next. And here I am now. progressing through professional wrestling.
But you take everything that you learn, you take with you to the next one. So you still know how to do it. It's not like you just forget, oh, I mastered it, and then you move on. Like, you still know these things. So like I said, it's a
Correct.
nice
Yeah.
repertoire to have, and you can use it in the pro wrestling. A lot of that stuff can be, worked or fixed into certain moves, and obviously having the training. I tell a lot of, I talk to a lot of wrestlers, and I still think the number one thing, it's great to know how to do everything, and there's all these spots now that were never there. That's wonderful. That's beautiful. But you have to be in, condition to do these things, and you have to be in condition to do that whole match. And like, I remember from boxing, we would train like 3,000 hours for those 3 little minutes. It takes its toll on you.
Yeah, absolutely. Personally, I didn't do too much boxing. I have done a few boxing classes, and I do have to say that there is no comparison for the conditioning required for boxing, especially workouts for your core and midsection. You've got to be able to take those body shots. So I tip my hat to you for even doing boxing. It's something the politician doesn't have much experience with. But
Yeah. But even just in general, I feel like combat sports in itself, it's just there's this conditioning that goes along with it. Even in like Taekwondo, my son's starting to learn the conditioning. He's starting to do the push-ups. He's starting to do, the burpees and all the different things. So he's getting into that conditioning frame of mind of, this is a sport. I have to be an athlete.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And in fact, what made me make the jump from martial arts to pro wrestling was actually few years ago, the WWE Network was doing a 24 on Shayna Baszler. And Shayna used to train under Billy Robinson. And Billy Robinson was a catch-as-catch-can wrestler out of the Snake Pit in Wigan, England, which is a notoriously, I'm not going to swear, but bad.
You can. We swear here.
It's as you know, the politician has an image to uphold. But
oh, yes.
the thing with Billy Robinson is that he would teach his students catch wrestling first before he ever approached the subject of professional wrestling. And he wanted to make sure that his students were ready for anything that might go sideways, shall we say, in the squared circle. So when I watched that, it spoke to me because between judo, taekwondo, and karate in 30 years, I've got as high as ever going to go in all of those. I did everything I ever wanted to do in all of those. And I've always been a lifelong professional wrestling fan. So you know what? I felt like, I earned it. I can enjoy this. I can pursue it with all my might. And I have the right tools. I have everything in the toolbox. And I'm going to be successful at it. And 2 years in, I am booked all over for the rest of 2024. So I'm very, very blessed.
And that is awesome. Because, you not for nothing. Not to boast and glow, but you do see people looking for bookings. You do see people that don't get booked. There's plenty of people that don't get booked. But the guys that want it, there's people out there that put in the work, and that's part of it, putting in the work. And I do see you putting it in. If you're working 2 promotions, a Friday and a Saturday, and you're doing 2 outstanding matches, that's putting in the work. And that's how you get your name out there. That's how you get more bookings. You never know who's watching. You never know who's filming. You never know where those films might end up. People go viral, then all of a sudden, your name's known. People are like, who's this guy? I want him. I want him on my show. He's now trending. Let's take him.
Absolutely. And the thing about it is every aspect of professional wrestling is a competition. It's always a balance with the cards and the promoters of these different promotions is that they want to book all the young guys. They want to have, everybody have a spot. But it affects the other matches. Like for the kind of wrestling that I do, I really want to speak to my constituents out there, and I want to make sure that I connect with all of my little voters. But it's tough to do when I'm sandwiched between a 6-man tag and a 10-man tag and a battle royal and 7 other matches on the program.
Now you said you've been a lifelong wrestling fan. Who were some of the people that when you were younger that inspired you, that got you to even enjoy wrestling?
Whenever I'm asked this question, there are 2 names that I drop. I'll give you my absolute favorite, and that's The Undertaker. The Undertaker, I was fortunate enough to follow his career from the very beginning all the way to the end.
Oh yeah.
I remember as a child, he would put his defeated opponents in a body bag and hoist them and carry them out of it.
I'll tell you, I was at a house show back in '91, and They were, or maybe it was 92. It was like between I think it was 92 because they were building up to the SummerSlam of Hogan versus Slaughter, the Hogan and Undertaker, Ultimate Warrior versus Slaughter and his goons there. They were doing
Yep.
that match. And they were doing house shows. So, we got to see a preview of that match, Hogan versus Slaughter, and Taker came out. And at that point in time, 92 wrestling was a little different. They didn't have internet. People didn't know so many of the secrets.
Yeah, right.
When this dude dragged that guy away in a body bag, that crowd was dead silent, scared. They didn't know what the hell to think of.
Right.
He was something that no one's ever seen before when he jumped in there. Even that Survivor Series, I watched that. When he was brought in by Brother Love, and it's just like, first of all, you're never gonna get that again. That somebody so important entering in the scene like that and not being known. Like he entered and then he was known. Now everybody's coming from somewhere or they've known them before, and people can backtrack. Nobody really knew Mark Calloway. Unless you follow WCW and some of the other, divisions, you've seen him here and there. But
Right.
yeah.
And jumping off that, I mean, I do remember even being so young at the time in those early days is that, of course, throughout the entire time, everybody in the country knew who Hulk Hogan was or knew who the Macho Man Randy Savage was. Sliding out of that heyday and stepping into the early 90s, it seemed like a lot of people outside of wrestling knew who The Undertaker was. You'd casually mention it in pop culture, and people would not think of, the funeral home. They would think of the Undertaker and the WWF. So he broke through very early, and I was a fan the whole time.
And it's weird. He broke through, but not like, because I mean, when he was in a movie, he was in Suburban Commando, but like nobody really knew about him until later, like after that movie,
Right.
I remember watching the movie.
Out.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, someone was like, hey, that guy, The Undertaker? He was in that movie. Because nobody back then knew real names either. That's another thing. Everybody just knew work names.
Right.
And as kids, we might have even thought, some of us thought, oh, that's his real name, The Undertaker. What do you mean he has a different name? But, that's the whole beauty of the kid, the magical, the kayfabe.
I don't know. You bring up another interesting point, Versace. I mean, it has been revealed since retirement that Mark Calloway is The Undertaker. But I feel in order for The Undertaker to have life, Mark Calloway has to give life to The Undertaker. So I don't think it's different things.
Well, I mean, we learned in 94 that nobody can replace The Undertaker when we had the Undertaker versus Undertaker match, right? There's only really one Mark Calloway Undertaker.
That's true. Yes.
There's been a fake, but there's only one. Now, that's one of your inspirations. Who was the second one?
Well, this one trumps them all. It's Hulk Hogan.
And there's no shame in that. I know a lot of people today, in today's era, they probably would not be a Hogan fan. And I get that. But at the time, people don't get it. He was the biggest thing on the planet.
Absolutely. Something popped up on the internet recently that I saw. It was like somebody released a video from 1993 where Hulk Hogan does an autograph signing at a gym opening in like Massachusetts. And it was crazy. And you and me, wrestling fans, you think 93 Hogan, that's like really low on his career, right?
Yeah, 93, I'm thinking he's just beating Yokozuna coming back for one more run.
So the video shows when Hogan pulls in, there's 6 limousines, there's at least 4,000 people out there, and all the wrestling trainees that they have helping promote the thing are all dressed up like Hulk Hogan. And as soon as he gets out, it's like a swarm of people come after him, and it's like crazy.
I mean, he's one of the first people in pro wrestling, I think, that really broke that barrier. He became an icon. He became an 80s icon. He became an American icon. He became so much more than just a wrestler in the ring. His theme song is very popular. People still listen to it today. And again, people may not like the person, but that character has touched so many people that are in the business or have joined the business that it's hard to not acknowledge that.
You raise another interesting point. You made me think about a crazy imaginative scenario, but would Gorgeous George get out of a limousine with his robe and his long curly blonde hair, and would people swarm around him? Hulk Hogan, I believe, couldn't hide from the fact that he was Hulk Hogan at any point in his life. So,
No, and I mean, again, he broke into Hollywood pretty soon.
yep.
He not just with his own movies there that they were doing like Suburban Commando, and you had that other one there, No Holds Barred. But Rocky was a huge push for him, and working with
Oh, yeah.
Sylvester Stallone, and that's another thing that brought everything into it.
Right.
And being Thunderlips and seeing him, and people really started to look at that because next to Rocky, he looks so huge. People are like, oh my God, this guy's, big, larger than life. They had so many different ways of bringing in Hogan as a larger than life celebrity. Like even when he went to Japan, people were all ecstatic. Like it was something that was never seen before.
No.
But those are two reputable people, and I can see, they both are very, character strong. Hogan was, very smart in a lot of ways. I was talking to somebody about this the other night. He could wrestle. He could wrestle very well, but he didn't have to.
Right.
He was very good with his charisma that he could just do his couple of spots and just be done, and the crowd would go wild.
Right. I'm reminded of a interview that Sid Vicious gave once, and somebody asked him, "What was it like wrestling Hulk Hogan?" Sid Vicious said, "It's so easy. It was like wrestling one of the Three Stooges."
And it is. The spots are simple. It's not hard. It's not anything tricky. It's nothing that you're seeing, off the top rope and all this maneuvers. It was a very simple formula to what he did. And it was almost very repetitive, like, oh, they're going to try to put him to sleep. He's going to raise his hand on the count of three. Like, but you still cheered along with it. You still got the momentum. Like, it didn't really matter. It was Hulk Hogan.
Hogan's been doing a string of interviews lately. He's still staying relevant. He's still out there, which is great. I think that's absolutely great. And one of the themes that he's talking about lately is like in his retirement and stuff, it'll be like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden he'll get like the jitters and he'll like really need to go, and he'll be have to amped up. And that comes from wrestling every single night for decades, and 1 minute, having tea in the locker room, to the next minute, he says, getting your head stomped on by 300 pounders, right? I actually feel that sometimes too. When the weekends come, I wrestle and I wrestle hard, and I am zigzagging all over New England. And then if I run into an evening where like nothing's going on, I get like, man, I got to be inside the squared circle. I got to have an outlet, and I've got to do something. I know exactly what he means to get into that grind and stay on that grind.
Well, I'm guessing like anything else, it almost becomes muscle memory, and your body just gets used to these, taking the bums and getting the adrenaline rushes. Especially the adrenaline rushes, because there's nothing like coming out and getting the fans either to scream, yes at you or boo you. Either way, that you're getting your desired effect. It's an adrenaline rush. 2020 taught us without the fans, there is, wrestling kind of falls a little flat. It's still the same sport, but it needs that. The fourth person. I always say the third person is the ref, the fourth person is the crowd. Without them,
Right.
the match can, it's hard to dictate. You need that feedback, those cheers, the boos, the interactions that you get sometimes. It's what makes the match different. It can also change the match, how the fans are feeling. People will change matches on the fly, which is great.
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure.
But you talk about Hogan, and he's still trying to stay relevant. And obviously he's a little bit older. Do you find it challenging now that, you've entered wrestling at a little bit of an older age? Do you find that challenging as in your own career, or do you find it, it's fine now?
There are some challenges, to be honest, for Sachi. One of my challenges is endurance. As you get older, it's hard to keep endurance up. So I do have to be wise, and I have to wrestle smart. But that's not to say that I can't go in the ring. My last couple of one-on-one matches have been with some pretty impressive stars in New England, and we can talk about that in a bit. But no, going back to the age thing, the only real handicap with it is that I feel kind of bad that I started so late, because had I started a long time ago, I'd be so much further along. On the other hand, I took so much time doing other things like martial arts, like politics, to prep me for wrestling. So I kind of needed that to do it now. So who's to say?
Yeah, it might. If you did the wrestling first, you might not have had time for any of the other stuff, because as you know, the weekend's grinding. You're not going to do much politicking if you have to go wrestle 3 or 4 matches every weekend. But
Oh,
bringing that real experience, like you said, that incorporates it even better. You talked about a wrestling time period where it was very character driven. There were characters out there like there would be like IRS and just people that had regular day jobs, but that was their character, and that's kind of something that grabbed me in wrestling later on as I became a little bit older. As Hogan and them, you had that heart in that era there, in that 92, 93, 94 era. Um, that will always be part of wrestling. Even like people like Doink the Clown, I found that to be engaging. I found that to be different. It brought people something different. It wasn't an athlete that had to perform. This was like, oh shoot, this is a clown, or oh my, this is a spaceman, Max Moon. It was totally different times. But I
it,
like that character work.
the trick with that is just keep ginning them out. Every once in a while, you'll get a home run. The Big Boss Man, the
Yeah.
Honky Tonk Man, the Undertaker, the Politician. Every once in a while, you'll get a home run. So
Yeah, I mean, at one point, every roster had a job. It seemed, you had a trash man, this and that. But like you said, only certain ones got the push. But I do like that kind of aspect of wrestling where nowadays you got a lot of guys that will just go by a name and they'll go by their real name. They don't even care. They're just, this is who I am. I might do this on the side, but I also wrestle. Where before you didn't know these guys were just wrestlers that kind of looked like they did another job. Maybe I don't know. But
uh,
that's the way I think wrestling kind of just evolved in general. It's become more athletic. People are doing things a little bit easier so they can get the longevity out of the career. Years ago, people in their 40s weren't wrestling much, I'll be honest. But now I talk to more and more people that are in their 40s that have careers on the indie scene, in WWE, in AEW. You see that there too. Undertaker's no spring chicken. His last match was what, 2 years ago or so? Um, Ric Flair's trying to come back one more time. I mean, you got people wrestling older now than ever before.
it speaks to that. Let's not forget that they're professional wrestlers. So it's their job and they're paid to do it. And they're paid to do it because they're good at doing it. And just like the movie Rocky Balboa, age in the cases of professional athletes might not be such a hindrance for them to continue to achieve their dreams. So in the case of the Politician and in the case of Ric Flair, I wouldn't be surprised if the both of us continue to wrestle until the day that we die.
But you must live a good lifestyle. I mean, there's so many 80 stars that just they didn't even think about the future and they're not with us anymore and their careers were cut short, their lives cut short, whether it be drugs, addiction, whatever it might be. They lived very fast.
Right.
I feel like today a lot of the guys take it a lot more serious. They're more health conscious. They're not trying to go out there to kill themselves. They know this is a job. This something that I'm going to want to do for a while. I don't need to burn myself out tonight.
Wrestling is not all that I have, so I'm not like those people. I have a very blessed life, and I have so much stuff. For the Politician, wrestling is but one of many things that I am a great achiever at. So I am not sad or anything. I can make do. I am very blessed.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, I would hate to see you just fall off because you couldn't wrestle one day. That'd be sad to see. But so you mentioned names. I mean, who do you've had many matches now. You just mentioned over 100. I've seen you in many promotions. What's been your most challenging match to work? Like, what opponent? Who have you been like, wow? Like who makes you wow in the ring now? I mean, who do you like to work with?
Let me talk about my recent match with Sigma. Are you familiar with Sigma?
Yeah, he just came back from Japan, if I'm correct, right?
Absolutely. You are totally correct. And in fact, he's actually going back to Japan shortly for another extended tour. So congratulations to Sigma.
That's awesome. Congrats.
Yep. Oh, yeah, for sure. And so what it was, St. Johnsbury, Vermont, the ETWA was putting on a fundraiser for the Prospectors. The Prospectors is a community youth wrestling team, ages kindergarten through 8th grade. So the ETWA did the fundraiser, and I had a match booked with Sigma. And I had known Sigma for a long time, ever since I first got into the business. And, believe it or not, Sigma and myself have a lot of similarities. He also has a martial arts background before getting into professional wrestling. We're of similar age. Yes, I might be a little bit more portly, but we are of a similar weight and similar size. And so, on paper, it would be, a fantastic match. Two guys with educated feet, similar. It's a good matchup. Um, so, as you said, Sigma just got back from Japan. So just imagine Sigma with his tights on and his face paint and his luggage bag coming off the airplane. He comes into the locker room, and as I've said, I've known Sigma for a long time, so we do talk in the locker rooms and stuff. But he comes up to me, and he holds his ETWA Heritage Championship title in front of me, and he's like, politician, finally, we get to meet in the squared circle. I hope you're ready for a title match. And mind you, he just got off the plane from Japan. The politician's like, Sigma, you're absolutely right. I want to give you every bit of the best title match that we can deliver to all the 6-year-olds out there in the audience today. So, in all seriousness, I did have to get ready for the match, and somebody back there, they needed an extra wrestler in the Battle Royal, so I went out there, did the Battle Royal, came back, and the match between Sigma and myself was really, really good. And we demonstrated to the youth amateur wrestling team out there in the audience how professional wrestlers do some wrestling holds. So, in fact, I debuted my perfect plex right on Sigma in there. So that was pretty exciting. I did come up short, so Sigma's still the Heritage Champion. No, actually, he lost to Jeff Fury on the last ETWA show, but just wanted to share all that.
Wow, that's a lot of excitement, and that's great to do the work with the kids, honestly, because I mean that's really what it's all about. That's where you grab your fans. That's where you grab your lifelong fans. It's not going to be an adult. It's going to be those kids. That's where we became fans. That's where a lot of the work wrestlers today became fans. It's when they were the kid. And now I feel like more than ever, you can go to a show and go to an indie show. You can see awesome wrestling. You don't have to spend an arm and a leg, but you can get close. You can talk to guys. You can get pitches. You can do all that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great experience. My kid just turned 5. I'm able to start bringing him to shows now that he can sit for the whole show, and he's loving it. He's loving to take pictures with the different guys. We sit ringside. He can see everything. He can hear everything. He gets the jokes. It's a great time. I honestly appreciate it all. Everybody that goes out and performs, especially for the children, because they love it even more than the adults.
Oh yeah, it is a pleasure, and the amount of children and the loudness of the children does dictate how the politician is able to wrestle in the squared circle. So
now speaking of children, you just had a big win at NCW, and they're for the children. But you had a big win. You took out what, like 4 guys?
correct. I believe you're referring to the 10-man tag that we had at the last NCW show, the
Yeah.
27th year reunion.
Yes.
Gotcha. So it was myself, the politician, with my chief of staff, Braylon Johnson. And on our team were a couple of new volunteers to the political party. We have John Steele, Tyler Storm, and Dutch. On the other side, we had the Hoods, Davey Cash and Shay Cash, and Cassius Cash. And then we had 2 members of the Dirt City Murder Crew. We had Jamie Tucker, and we also had Jason Devine. It was a very exciting tag match, and my members of the political party pulled through for the politician. They did a lot of the dirty work, but let's not forget, at the end of the match, I did have to show Shay Cash a little political lesson there, and I gave him a vertical suplex. So if you weren't there, you missed it. And I did pull off the victory, and I rolled up Cassius.
Well, that's great, and NCW, I love them. It's one of my, the first promotions that I went to when I started watching indie wrestling again and coming around the scene. It was NCW. They're close by. Stopped in,
Mhm.
and I was just mesmerized by, the effort that people were giving on the indie scene. Because before that, I was a little kid when I went to an indie show, and it was totally different. You'd see a couple unknown guys. You were going for the WWE superstars, or I'd go to see the Honky Tonk Man, or Tito Santana, or somebody they were sending me. I wasn't going for the indie scene. I didn't know them, and I had no way
Right,
to follow them. Today, you can
right.
follow everybody. You got IWTV. Everybody's got a YouTube. There's all this ways just to find people. Um, but I mean, right now I feel it's the best time to be a wrestling fan and a wrestler. There's so much exposure to be gotten and places to go if you want to get it. We're just about a little bit out of time, but I do want to ask you, where can
Yes.
actually I want to ask you two questions. What's your
Yep.
stance on cannabis, first of all, as a politician?
The politician does support the full legalization of the recreational use of cannabis. The politician, in his capacity as an actual politician in New Hampshire politics, does track this issue. And as soon as we are off the podcast, the politician's going to find out if the legalization bill passed the Senate. If it passed the Senate, because the deadline for the vote on it is today, if it passed the Senate, Governor Sununu has still indicated that he will sign it. So I'm just wait. So as soon as we're done with this podcast, the politician's going to find out about that in New Hampshire, the only holdout in New England.
Very cool, very cool. 'Cause, I mean, I go to Maine a lot. Maine's nice, and New Hampshire's would be nice to go to too. It's a nice spot, but you always got to drive through, and it would be nice for you guys to grab some of that money too. Because right now Maine's making a killing. They even outdo Mass, I feel, because their price is so cheap. Everybody drives up there. But yeah, I mean, it's a hot topic, but I mean, I find it to be medicinally beneficial on many accounts for many ailments. So I've always been a supporter of it. And I'm glad to hear like-minded folk, that are in real politics that do support it, and its benefits. But, the last question I'm going to ask you, and this is, where can folks find you? Where can they, follow you? Where can they see all your fun stuff?
Gotcha. Okay. So I am all over the place on social media. So I have two Facebooks. My athlete page is called The Politician. And I'm really trying to get that off the ground because if that gains steam, it's easier to monetize that than my profile, which is PW Politician.
Have you made it a business account yet?
I don't know. The politician is worried about policy, not Facebook settings menus.
No, but if you do make it a business account, I do believe you can get it monetized. But yeah, the pages are automatically eligible anyways if you can get the right following on there.
Oh yeah, for sure. So the politician, PW Politician, that works for Instagram, TikTok, Venmo, Cash App. Donations are always welcome. And in 2023, I worked 17 different promotions throughout New England. And you can catch me all over New England for the rest of 2024 and beyond. June 29th, you can catch me in the Beltway. I'll be wrestling in Waldorf, Maryland for Assault Wrestling Alliance once again. And I'll see you on the campaign trail.
Definitely. And I have to say, I wanted to mention this because I remember seeing it, and it was just something really brilliant.
Yes.
You wrestled at NCW, and then at intermission, you sold everything you wore for that match. My friend ended up buying it, but you sold it right on the spot. Ring One gear. The dude bought it up because he heard Ring One gear, and he was that's brilliant. I have to say.
That's true. Yes, the politician wrestles in dress shirts and golf pants and suspenders and things, and they do get torn up in the squared circle. So whenever they do, I sell them to my loyal constituents, and it's a great donation to the campaign.
It is. I was impressed by that. He's like, I just bought this. I'm like, what is that? He's like, oh, this was the politician's outfit he was wearing. I'm like, really? You sold it to you? He's like, yeah, he was selling it right then and there. He gave me a good deal. I'm like, sweet. That's sweet. He's probably going to be something. That was a few years back. I think you were just, starting. You were just making around. Now you've like I said, you've been everywhere. I've seen you all over the place booked. And again, congratulations on that. We will definitely be keeping an eye out. And stay in contact. I always like to bring people back on, see how they're doing, see how the campaign's doing. Shoot, but thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'm going to check on that bill. Fingers crossed. And love the podcast. I'll see you around, Versace Stoner.
Thank you. And yes, fingers crossed, everybody, that New Hampshire does this. This will be a big thing. And as always, support indie wrestling. Versace Stoner out.